Hey, my name is Steven. I'm a graphic designer. Let's review the product design of Key's album Bad Love. This album is an intergalactic tale of a love story gone horribly wrong. The elements of this album are heavily inspired by the toys and comics from the 80s and 90s, as well as science fiction. There is a heavy use of retrofuturism in the design elements as well. First and foremost, I think one of the biggest elements of the design choices in the product design is the use of color and contrast. There is a very bright and vibrant, almost neon color palette that's mixed in with some more darker tones and colors, specifically maroons and blacks. It really harkens to, again, the science fiction elements as well as comics from the 80s and 90s. Black and white is also used sparingly throughout the design choices when it comes to typography as well as photography. Photography is heavily used in the album art. It really allows Key and their team to illustrate the storytelling that they want to happen. And there is a really good mixture of modern photography mixed with treated photography here. A lot of the treated photography uses styles from pop art, specifically halftones, that speak to the comic book feel that they're going for, as well as the aesthetics from the 80s and 90s. Of course, also typography plays a huge part in the design elements as well. There's a really good use of some display fonts that have this kind of electric feel, really science fiction, pulls from a lot of films from there, and also comic books too. And to contrast that, they also utilize a serif in some of the subheadlines as well as the body copy, which really allows for legibility and is a really good contrast to the display typefaces used here. And some of the typographical elements also are treated with the same halftone effect that is used in some of the photography. Now, some of the issues that I have with the design elements in the albums are really have to do with space and rhythm, more particularly in some of the poster designs from the album. There is not enough space for a lot of the elements to breathe. These design choices were probably used because the copy was really heavy in these elements. These elements were specifically the credits, the lyrics, and that is a lot of body copy to deal with. So I understand that, whatever they do, it's going to be very heavy to read. I would say that some of the things that they could have improved on here was maybe applying some of the elements that they used in the photo book, specifically mixing black and white, the halftones, and color sparingly to allow for legibility, allow for rhythm and flow, but also further push hierarchy. Because specifically in either of the versions, I think that it can be really difficult to read, whether it's the all color one or the shades and tones one. So I would have probably chosen to do the splashes of color for the headlines and subheadlines, or I would have applied the color only to the photography elements to the posters. Now, where they've gotten the rhythm right is with the asymmetrical layout. Not only does it speak to the styles that they're referencing, the comic books, the science fiction, it also allows for flow throughout a lot of the work, which really helps with the reader to understand where things are going and what needs to be read first. Another thing that plays into the rhythm of things is value. So the measure of light and dark. I think that there is not enough contrast in certain areas to allow legibility and rhythm. But again, because of the asymmetrical layout, the way things were placed, it does allow for a little bit of flow, so it makes up for that in that department. To wrap up, some of my favorite elements of the product design are definitely the use of photography. I think it's really illustrative. It tells you exactly the story and what they're trying to go for, and I think it's really beautiful and used very well. I love the color palettes. I think that they're really fun and vibrant and dynamic. I also think that the display fonts are beautifully chosen that also represent the styles that they're trying to go for.